I had a way then, losing it all on my own. I had a heart then, but
Hey guys, Husky-Flies back once again with another video, and today I'm going to be discussing Dashware, and more specifically I'm going to be discussing some codec errors that you might get when attempting to render a video from your Phantom out through Dashware. So Dashware used to be a payware program. It is now a freeware program. I believe the developers, ever since it went freeware, have moved on to other things. I think they started working on a project with GoPro, which, more power to them. It's probably an amazing opportunity for them. Unfortunately, in their absence, this program has kind of been abandoned, and it is a bit outdated. And due to that, there are some issues with it. So first, I'm just going to show you the exact errors I'm talking about. So you can see I've got a video, flight video imported over here. I've got some telemetry stuff up here, default. I've got a data file imported, Flytrex AGL. And we're going to go ahead and try to create this video. So everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and click create. And boom, you're hit with this error rendering and then just a mess of FFMPEG errors. So today I'm going to show you a method to work around this and to fix this using Adobe Premiere, although it should work for pretty much any mainstream editing program you might use. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up Premiere. I've already got it open over here. And you need to import a video into Premiere. Here I have a waypoint mission video that was recorded from my phone. Doesn't really matter, pretty much any video will work. You just need to import it and create a sequence. So here we've got our video that we're going to use. Once again, it was recorded from my phone. I'm going to go ahead and the first step that you want to do is when you're doing this, you want to create something long enough that you can cover pretty much any flight with it. As you can see, this isn't very long at all. It's like a minute and 40 or so. You want something ideally around 20 minutes. So you're just going to click the video you're working on, Control C, bring your timeline over here, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. Just make a bunch of copies of your video until you have, I would say about 20 minutes would be the safest bet. I'm not going to go all the way up to 20 minutes just because I've done this before and I already have the product of doing this, so I'm not going to worry about that, but I'll show you the next steps as to what you want to do. So the next thing you're going to want to do is what we're actually going to do with this video is we're going to create a green screen. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this in Premiere, but the way I do it is I use Paint Bucket. So you can see I opened effects over here, and then I searched Paint Bucket, took that, went ahead and dragged it onto there, and immediately you'll notice that it has filled most of the screen with red, which is great, except we have two problems here. We're making a green screen, so first we want this to be green, and secondly we want it to fill the whole screen. So you're going to go over here with the clip selected that you're working on and hit Effect Controls. And you will see this paint bucket effect that you just applied to the video from down here. Now what you need to do is you need to go to the tolerance first off, enter 255. That's going to fill the entire video as opposed to a part of it. And then you're going to just go for something green, just go for a green shade. That looks good, and what I like to do is this will it basically makes the color broadcast safe. Not exactly sure what it means by that, but I think it gives you a more solid shade of green, so I like to hit this right here, hit OK, and if we go and look back at that clip now, we can see we have a full-on green screen video. So now you did that for one clip, and as you recall, you copied multiple to push it up to that 20-minute mark. So we're going to go ahead and hit copy on the clip you've already been working on. We're going to select another clip and hit paste attributes, hit OK. As you can see, it has now filled that. Going to do that for every clip in the entire 20-minute span. And basically, we're just going to get this nice, smooth green screen all the way through here. Also, if your video has audio, as mine does, you can go ahead and delete that out because it's not going to be necessary to have audio in this. This is purely just a green screen video. So after you've done that to all your clips, which you can see I have one left, I'll go ahead and hit paste attributes, finish that off. We're ready to render this out. So we're going to go up to File, Export, Media, and I use H.264. You can use whatever you want to here. The important part is, by default, your Premiere is probably going to be set to match everything to the source of the imported video. So whatever the imported video is, resolution, all that, it's going to try to match the source of it. What you need to do is this first part right here is your resolution. You need to uncheck that so it's not matching that source. I'm going to export this at 1080p, but anything that's 1080p and lower will work. The inherent problem with Dashware, since it's kind of outdated, is that it doesn't support any high resolution videos, so 2K, 4K, anything like that. It basically needs to be 1080p or lower, and that is why you are getting these FFMPEG encoding errors when you attempt to export your video. So now that we've got our green screen and we have set it to 1080p as the export, we're going to go ahead and export this out. I'm not, because I already have done this once and I already have exported a green screen at 1080p, but you would just hit this export down here. Make sure that you go up here and click to determine where it's going to go and what the name of it is. After that, go ahead, after you've done that and after you've set the resolution, you can go ahead and hit export. Premiere is going to export it out. So, now that we have that exported out, we are going to head back into Dashware. We're going to get rid of this video that we were using. We're going to add the green screen that we just exported from Premiere. So we're going to go ahead and open that put that in here. And as you can see, we've got active telemetry. I'm going to change this telemetry around a bit. I don't really like the default set. So I have always been a fan of the UAVH tapes. Go ahead and slide those in, or whatever telemetry you like having, and upsize it to fit the edges of the screen. And you will see that as we're moving along, the telemetry file is indeed working. These meters are active. So as you recall earlier, I told you to render a 20-minute video. That is because you want to cover every flight you have. Basically, you want the video to be longer than the telemetry file. If it's not longer than the telemetry file, your telemetry is going to get cut off whenever the video ends, and you're not going to have the full telemetry to import back into Premiere. So it's really important that you hit that 20-minute mark, or however long you usually fly. But I will show you that 20 minutes is a pretty long time. Most of us aren't going to get a full 20 minutes out of our battery, especially on the Phantom 3. So what you can do is you can go through here until this telemetry cuts off, which, as you can see, it's done here. There's no more telemetry, so we'll go back a bit and just take this endpoint and drag it back. The only reason I'm suggesting doing that is because it's going to make the render time a little bit shorter. But with all your gauges set up and how you like, you can go ahead and render this out. So we're going to go to create video. We'll just name this new project 1. That's fine. Yep, that's fine. And go ahead, as you can see, we're at 1920 by 1080, 1080p. Make sure that's correct. Go ahead and create video. As you can see now, it appears to be rendering perfectly. Estimated total time of 2 minutes 53 seconds. Estimated remaining time 243, and we've got an elapsed time of 13 seconds, and this will go ahead and render through. So now that you have that green screen rendered now with the telemetry overlaid on top of it, you're going to go back into Premiere. You're going to get the video that relates to whatever data file you used for your telemetry. Then you're going to go find that green screen. And I will just use a past one I have done with telemetry on it. You're going to go ahead and bring that green screen template that you've rendered out of Dashware in with your flight video. You might notice something strange. Pretty obvious the reason. This is 1080p, this is 2.7K, so they're obviously not going to match up, but that's easy enough to fix with Premiere. We're going to highlight the telemetry green screen video. We're going to go to Effect Controls. We're going to go to Motion, and Position is what we're looking for, and I am going to undock this to make it a little bit easier. We have Motion, so now we can hold down Shift to maintain the aspect ratio while we drag this and fill the flight video with it. So now we've got the telemetry overlaying the flight video, as you can see. All we need to do is get rid of the green screen. So what I like to use for this in Premiere is called Ultra Key, but again, this should work for pretty much any editing software worth its salt. You're probably going to be searching for a chroma key type effect, so that's what I would search for if I was outside of Premiere, but I happen to know in Premiere it's called Ultra Key. We're going to take this and drag it onto the video. Once again, I'm going to undock this just so you can see the effect as I'm doing it, but we're going to go to Effect Controls. We don't need motion, we're looking for Ultra Key right here. So there's an eyedropper icon right here. And essentially what this Ultra Key is going to do is remove any color of the same shade as where you place this eyedropper. So we're going to grab this eyedropper, go down here, hit that, and as you can see, now you have your telemetry overlaid onto the flight video. Hey guys, as you can see, our telemetry and flight video has changed just a bit. I honestly don't know if that data file related to that video or not. I was just kind of using it as an example. This, however, I do know. I just want to show you one more thing, and that is how to sync your video with your telemetry. If you've done this in Dashware and you're familiar with Premiere or whatever editing program you use, it should be fairly self-explanatory on exactly how to do it. But I will go ahead and show anyways. Now in this particular flight, I know I had a weird moment where it actually went into negative altitude, as you can see right there, -2. I'm not sure exactly what that was about, but we're just going to kind of get that back to 0 altitude and cut that off. So the easiest method obviously is finding your takeoff point and finding the first activity in your telemetry, and they should be essentially the same. But if you don't have that luxury, you didn't start recording before takeoff or whatever, the same methods apply. You just need to find somewhere in the video and in the telemetry that's easy to sync, and I will show you exactly how we're going to do that. So as you can see, I've blocked the flight video, so I actually can't see it right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through. You can see we've got active telemetry right there. We're going up to 12 feet, I believe. Yep. So we're going to go back down to where this says 0, and we're going to hit this frame forward until we get that first altitude indication that we are at 1. And I know that's my takeoff point. That's where I'm first taking off. So it's not going to be perfectly matched up, but it should be close enough. So now we're just going to cut this, delete off the beginning of this telemetry, and now we are going to get rid of this, get rid of the telemetry and make the flight video visible. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to kind of go through here. I know I sat there for quite a while before I actually took off. I was talking to somebody. So we're just going to keep scrolling through, scrolling through, scrolling through, and here we have our takeoff. So we're going to go back. Now what you want to look for with this is the first sort of movement, the first inclination of altitude movement, since we're kind of trying to sync the altitude up and have everything else sync based off that. So basically the first few frames you notice yourself going up, that's about where you want to sync it to. So I'm going to push forward until I start seeing some movement up there. So I can see a tiny bit of movement, but since it was already at a foot, and we're obviously not a foot above the takeoff point, I'm going to push it just a bit more forward. So that looks fine. Somewhere around there looks fine. So now we're going to cut this as we did with the telemetry, and once again how to do that in Premiere is you hit C for the shortcut, highlight it with the timeline, and it will cut right on that timeline, which will ensure it'll cut at the exact frame you want it to. So now we have this, and we know that they match up because the takeoff, around where the takeoff starts happening in the video, is around the time that the altitude becomes active. So let's see how this worked out, because it's not always perfect, and sometimes you do have to do it a couple times to get it perfect. So we can see that we're extending altitude. It's not perfectly matched up. No, it's not anywhere matched up, as you can see there. So we're going to go back and we're going to have to try this again. So what you can see here is that this altitude is still going up. The altitude is going up before the video is reflecting that. So the altitude is ahead of the video in terms of time. So we're just going to move this a little bit forward, not too much, pull it back, see how this plays out right here. And again, it's kind of a tedious process, but this is sort of what it has come to with, once more, just a tiny bit forward, sort of what it has come to with Dashware being out of commission for this sort of thing. It's never super easy to sync in Dashware either. I would say it was a little bit easier than with a video editing program. But it's kind of trial and error. You just got to keep trying this stuff until everything matches up perfectly. And as you can see, that seems to be reflecting it pretty well. So we're going to keep watching here. And the altitude stopped around the same time we stopped ascending. So this should be pretty matched up. Now that you've got both the telemetry and the video matched up, you might be thinking about that video and telemetry we deleted earlier. Well, you can just go back and stretch both of these back, and you can use that effectively. Now again, I said I had a weird negative altitude thing here, and you can see that right there. So it is going to show a negative altitude, but it quickly corrects. And one more thing you might want to do in terms of syncing this up is just kind of check points in the video. Just, go here. What's going on here? It's not much going on. We're sitting in spot, and the telemetry is reflecting that. So we'll go forward a little bit more. As you can see, the telemetry is working perfectly. So once you've got it synced up, it's pretty easy from that point on. Obviously, if you want to do anything more to this project, if you're making like a YouTube video and you need intro or whatever, you can do that. The only thing you need to make sure is that when you're moving one of these, you're moving both of them. When you're cutting one of them, you're cutting both of them, deleting a part of one, deleting a part of the other. You have to keep these perfectly synced. But if you do that, you can once more get telemetry in your video pretty easily, as seen here. This is one of the other videos I completed using this method. So this is a kind of simple and dirty workaround for the Dashware issue of it not really being supported anymore and not really supporting higher resolutions. That being said, I think it is a workaround that will work for the foreseeable future, because as you upscale this altitude information, this telemetry, the displays are going to get a little fuzzy, because you're upscaling it from 1080p to 2K and to a greater extent to 4K. And that's going to make them a little fuzzy, but even on 4K it's really not that noticeable at all, and 4K isn't even widespread yet. So I think for the foreseeable future, this will be a good way to handle that. Now, some of you out there might be thinking, well, gee, this looks like a giant pain in the butt, and you would be completely correct. It's a little bit easier once you have your first green screen rendered out, because then you don't have to worry about doing that step anymore. It's just an extra step to creating each project that you want telemetry on. But truthfully, there aren't many alternatives out there. There is a program I'm familiar with called Race Render. Race Render is unfortunately intended for, as the name would imply, races in a car, in a real aircraft, whatever. I also think it's designed to work with Flytrex Pro, which is an actual telemetry tracker. I believe it's designed to work with whatever form of telemetry tracker you have. So this method is free, whereas that's going to cost a bit for the program and for the telemetry tracker. And I've used Race Render before. I will say, compared to this, even with the extra step, the learning curve is very, very steep, and it doesn't seem to interpret the data from my Phantom as well. I can get pretty much any telemetry I want to from Dashware, whereas in Race Render, I'm limited to kind of median sea level altitude and speed. I couldn't get much else to work in there. So I think this is your best quick fix for the Dashware. If you want telemetry in your videos, I think this is the best method to get them. Once again, guys, this is Husky-Flies. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and make sure to leave me a few comments. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope it helped. Thanks.